Our reason for coming to Las Médulas was simple. A single photo on Google Maps put these jagged ragged peaks on our radar. Tucked away in northern Spain, most people miss it entirely. But for us, this was the main event. But if we just stroll through these crimson spires and storybook forests, we miss the point. This isn't a natural wonder. We are walking through an ancient illusion, a landscape completely reshaped by human hands. It's a scene of total destruction that nature has spent 2 millennia trying to hide. To get to the heart of this place, we first have to disappear into the woods. The path feels like a fairy tale, with thick twisted stems and deformed bark that instantly transport us into a wonderland. No set design is needed, because we are already in the middle of a story. The contrast is wild. You have the deep green of a canopy, the jagged ragged peaks in the distance, and a piercing blue sky. It's a visual overload of primary colors that feels almost too vivid to be real. What's strange is that this wonderland is a working landscape. People farm these chestnuts today, which is a tradition passed down through centuries.
As you might have noticed, I'm not sure, I wouldn't notice because I'm not really into botany, but all of these trees, or most of them, are actually chestnuts. And they give this forest, I guess it's a forest, a really cool vibe because of the huge trunks, and the trunks have all these shapes, they're like differently crooked shapes. It gives it like a fairy tale vibe, so when you go through here, it feels magical, so cool. But actually there's another important part about these chestnuts. The farmers here around, they are actually earning a living from this. So you're not allowed to collect any of these and take them with you. But if you go to this little village, and you kind of have to because all the trails are starting there, there's a lot of products that you can buy, like some cream and butter and cheese and things like that. So yeah, that's super cool actually.
But even this forest is a relic of the original industry. These trees were planted by the Romans for one reason: to feed the tens of thousands of people stationed here to bleed this mountain dry. The Romans were here to operate the largest open-pit gold mine in the entire empire. For 2 centuries, this valley wasn't a forest. It was the industrial engine that powered the Roman economy. The peaks that surround us now are just the jagged edges of what was left behind when the water finally stopped flowing. As we leave the woods, the ground firms up and we find ourselves wandering between red, craggy hills that look like they belong on another planet. That's when we find the caves. They are the scars left behind by a mountain being ripped apart from the inside out. We can't go inside today because the rock is too unstable, but standing at the mouth of one, you can feel a cool draft hitting you. It's the weight of history coming out of the shadows. I tried to wrap my head around how they actually did this. The Romans didn't just scratch the surface, they dismantled these mountains using nothing but gravity and water. They dug a labyrinth of narrow dead-end tunnels deep into the heart of a mountain, while they filled massive reservoirs high above us on the peaks. Then they opened the floodgates. As the water roared into these shafts, the air inside had nowhere to escape. It compressed instantly, creating a massive buildup of pressure called a water hammer that quite literally popped the mountain from the inside out. It wasn't just mining, it was an industrial explosion.
So we're done with our first checkpoint, but it took us crazy long. For a distance of 1.5 kilometers, we took like 2.5 hours. The landscape here is just so picturesque. You run like 10 meters and you just have to stop because there's a beautiful painting-worthy view. It's so crazy. We kind of have to move a little bit faster now because it's already almost 4. We need to still go like another 2 kilometers and then another 3 kilometers to return. So yeah, we need to keep moving. Let's go.
We eventually find a small bench for a quick snack. It's strange, but the silence here is so heavy, it almost feels like the valley is holding its breath. As we sit here, the scale starts to feel off. I realize I'm only seeing the footnotes of the story, so we leave a bench behind to find a perspective that actually makes sense. On the map, we spot an overlook called Orient, sitting high above the peaks. They say 100 million cubic meters of earth were moved here, which is half of what it took to dig the Panama Canal. I need to see if I can actually visualize this void from the ledge. So we begin the final push. As we begin the final ascent towards Orient, the landscape pulls a disappearing act. The red grid vanishes, replaced by a silver-white birch forest that feels hauntingly delicate. It's a sudden shift in energy, a quiet, green corridor that feels worlds away from the red dust below. It's a glimpse of what this mountain might have looked like if it had never been touched. And for a moment, it's easy to believe that the story of destruction is finally behind us. But as the trail narrows and we push higher, the atmosphere begins to sour. That serenity starts to feel fragile. And just beyond this line of white trees, we realize that nature's attempt to reclaim this mountain was recently met with a new kind of violence. The signs of a recent fire start creeping into our view. In 2025, a massive forest fire tore through this valley, leaving a fresh black scar right on top of an ancient one. It's a heavy contrast, seeing these blackened trunks standing against the red Roman spires. It makes you realize that even after 2000 years, the landscape is still being reshaped. You have to ask yourself, is it still a marvel, or is it just a place defined by what it has lost? There's one final climb left to reach the ledge. My legs are tired, the air is dry, and the charred smell of the forest is still lingering in the breeze. But then you reach the top, and it's still beautiful. It's breathtakingly beautiful. Standing at the Orient viewpoint, the perspective shifts one last time. I finally see the void. I'm not looking at the mountain range, I'm looking at the hole. These red peaks are just the sterile leftovers the Romans didn't bother to explode. Everything in the air in front of me was once solid ground, buried under millions of tons of earth that simply isn't there anymore. Las Médulas is a masterpiece made out of ruins. A landscape exploited, exploded, and eventually burned, and yet it's still the most striking thing I've seen in years. Even after a fire, life is already pushing back. Seeing tiny shoots of green grass emerging from the charred earth makes me hopeful for the future. I'm already planning a second trip. I want to see this landscape again once it's fully regenerated. For now, all what's left is to head back down and enjoy this place one last time in the golden hour light. If you want to find more hidden, complicated corners of Europe like this, make sure to subscribe and I'll take you there.
Oh, oh, ah, check out this echo. A, B, C.